I'm sure this won't come as news to you, but Blizzard are perhaps one of the most shameless companies in the entire industry because they announced some pretty astounding news yesterday that is likely going to make like a brilliant future for them, and in the exact same breath, they announced, as they always do, more layoffs. So 10 months after he rejoined the Warcraft leadership team as creative advisor, Chris Metzen is back. He is back in a full role as the executive creative director of the Warcraft universe. And this is pretty exciting for Warcraft fans. This is basically exciting for Blizzard as a whole, because Chris Metzen more or less is the face of Blizzard, right? You'll have seen a lot more of like Mike Morhaime, J. Allen Brack in the recent years and stuff like that, especially from a leadership position. But from a creative position, from a this is the guy who made the stuff I know, it's Chris Metzen. As much as people like Blizzard's games, I think what really drove people to them more were not just the stories, right? But the vibes, the atmosphere, the feelings. Warcraft is like a vibe that people know. People know Warcraft, they know World of Warcraft. StarCraft as well, with it's properly iconic, and Diablo with all of the hellishness to it. People love those, and it's pretty understood that being, senior vice president of story and franchise development for such a long time, Metzen was at the heart of it all, right? He is this 23-year veteran of Blizzard who was there from the very beginning. I think he joined, and the first game he worked on was a Justice League game for them, I believe. And he's basically also not just the face, he's also the voice of Blizzard. Iconic characters are him, Thrall. That's maybe the most iconic Warcraft character of all. I'd say that maybe Arthas or Illidan. He's the hero, right? He is. You think of a heroic character, it's him shouting, it's him doing that growl. That's what he is, and that's exactly what Blizzard have been missing in a lot of their games recently. Even when Diablo 4 did a seemingly very good job of getting it, it still didn't really have the hanging around power that it needed. It didn't really inspire people to, in this like brand new way that those games back in the past did. And now that Metzen's back leading Warcraft, there's maybe a little bit of that to come. So you think about Blizzard for the past maybe 7 or 8 years, and it seems to have all gone downhill since then. It seems to be Legion being World of Warcraft's final expansion, where like the core original creative team were part of it, and then Overwatch, like its release, obviously it's not all connected, but that's when Metzen left originally. And obviously we do have to talk about the whole workplace culture thing a little bit, because obviously that was a big thing that happened a couple of years ago and has changed Blizzard irreversibly. But one of the things that's interesting is how much work did Chris Metzen do on Blizzard? How much was he like the creative force? How much did he actually drive things behind the scenes? And one of the things he's spoken about quite openly is that his desire to leave was mostly because of burnout. And it seems that more or less after he spent his time away, after he, went on the Ouroboros sourcebook for War Chief Gaming, his own company, which is apparently a tabletop retelling of a world and campaign from his teenage years, which is one of those like, feels kind of full midlife crisis-y, right? It's like, I'm going to go back into my teenage years and write a source book and it's going to be cool. And that was largely successful and everyone was happy to pay for it and stuff. But after that, they seem to have gotten quiet. But over in Blizzard since 2016, it seems that a lot of Chris Metzen's work was actually picked up by a man who's been referred in multiple places as his successor, Alex Afrasiabi. In the 2021 revelations, he was named as a specific individual who had harmed people after he left the company a year prior. And it seems like through a lot of scuttlebutt we're hearing back and forward across Blizzard, across, different things, it seems like Afrasiabi may not have been a very effective successor to Metzen. It seems that maybe there were some wrong lessons learned. Maybe some of it was attitudes, maybe some of it was other things, but it seemed like that period of time between the actual company itself was in a pretty, not a dearth of creativity, in terms of developers, but a dearth of creativity from vision. It seemed like the only people they had at the top were leaders who were interested in leading from a production perspective or from a more, a corporate perspective, instead of here's the thing that we want you to do, here's the vision, here's the art we're going to make, everyone go for it. It seems they were a little bit more comfortable to go, what are we making? Products, I guess. We'll let the devs figure it out, whatever. Sometimes that can be better in certain cases. But for Blizzard, the thing that always defined them was this really strong creative vision that bled through everything they did. That seemed to suffer in that downtime. And I don't believe they had a creative director for Warcraft specifically, actually, someone in that literal position since Afrasiabi's development. So then you think about Afrasiabi being gone and why, and you go, well, hang on, was Metzen involved in any of that? And right now he was not directly named in any of the allegations, and his personal apology was more or less, he had the privilege of not noticing, not engaging, not creating necessary space. So effectively, he kind of downplayed any connection he had with Afrasiabi, and then basically went he wasn't incriminated in anything. No one said he's ever done anything wrong, just that he didn't do quite the effective job as he should have as a leader in that case. So then in 2023, he came back as creative advisor for the Warcraft franchise, including World of Warcraft at first, and then moving on to other things, which obviously people are thinking, the other things, what's that about? Interesting. Are you going to do some movies? You're going to do some TV, things like that? And I believe on Twitter, Chris and Mike Ibarra, the president of Blizzard, basically talked about that pretty handily and said, maybe. There's maybe some plans, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Not going to tell you how far along they are. And then Metzen was like, hey, a movie would be cool too, which, you look at that being the time of, post Arcane's astounding success, post the original success of the early Witcher, looking at Castlevania as another example. There's clearly like a market for Blizzard stuff there if they actually do it with creative direction, which they now have in terms of, well, a creative director. As for Warcraft at the time, that was off the end of the Shadowlands expansion, which was a wake-up call for so many people, because that was not good. Not good in almost any feasible way. It wasn't good. So then that moved into Dragonflight, and Dragonflight has been substantially, improved so far in like technically and as a gameplay product and all those things, with like content cadence, with the openness to the developers, with like the core details of gameplay, including class balance and changes like that. It has been a resounding success. Couple of shortfalls here and there. Still, it's not perfect yet, but one of the most divisive parts has been the creative direction. Obviously, we're very close to it, having the Warcraft channel and covering that in depth, where recently we've been covering a lot of basically community concerns that it's toothless. The Warcraft franchise doesn't have war in it anymore. People are very hungry for like not just gritty stories, not just stories that are, hey, this is dire for the sake of it, not just here's some murder and pain and suffering. People want the kind of nuanced stuff. People want Cyberpunk as an example. The whole like the humanism and transhumanism idea of, are you a person? How is that your body? What happens if you replace different parts of your body, parts of your mind? That's a really interesting thing for people to like delve into and engage with. And it's a far cry from what people are kind of calling World of Warcraft's current direction, which is in some cases people say Disneyfied or very cartoony. And Warcraft historically has been a little bit silly at times, but it always had the backbone of an orc screaming. It was always about sacrifice. It was always about, you think back to like the original story of Warcraft 3 and you think about Grom Hellscream, and he makes the heroic sacrifice to kill the demon that's been plaguing like his entire people. He dies in the effort and frees everyone else, even after this being basically his, just earlier, his second fall from grace. And it's all about these like strong heroic characters doing things that people can stand behind and rally behind and go, yeah, life sucks ass, but we can be that cool, so let's get after it. And I think that's what I think a lot of people were like super excited by. And that was Metzen, right? That was what Metzen wanted. It was, to be fairly reductive, it's like heavy metal and beer. Obviously that goes a little bit too far sometimes into like trope territory, but that's the kind of thing that people miss in the industry, especially in like Blizzard, especially in like Overwatch 2. You see every cinematic is dramatic orchestral swell and we're all together now and we've beaten the bad guy, and there's very little like nuance in terms of any, not even just morality, but just there's nothing to be interested by or excited by. It's all like a false veneer of emotion. It's just like, hey, be happy now or something. So that was like the major problem with Dragonflight as far as creativity goes. But now Metzen has been working on World of Warcraft projects for 10 months already. He's now got this promotion to executive creative director. He's now basically like officially in the driver's seat, which implies to me that this is something they want to have known before they move into BlizzCon. They want BlizzCon to be very, very hyped up. They want that to be a massive moment for Metzen's back, Warcraft's back. You get all of that energy. You get Metzen on stage and he goes, for the Horde! And everyone goes completely mental. That's the kind of stuff people want to hear. That's the energy Warcraft had. That's the energy Blizzard had. And correlation and cause aside, you kind of go, well, Blizzard under Metzen, cool stuff. Blizzard not under Metzen, not cool stuff. And that's reductive. It's also kind of true. It's also like an observed effect. So whether you see this as a big exciting moment for the Blizzard we knew coming back in the creative direction, obviously they have a lot of other things to contend with. There's a whole load of problems across the organization and a lot of things have been doing better. Metzen being back isn't going to suddenly mean that Diablo 4 seasonal content is suddenly more exciting. And that's one of the things people have been talking about with issues recently. If you want to see it as at least an attempt, we know the vibes are off. How do we get the vibes back? Let's get the man who built them in the first place. let's pull them back on the project and get something going, then at least there's hope. But obviously at the top of this video, I did say it was very Blizzard of them. It was Blizzard. Blizzard do it again. Blizzard have done what they always done every single time. They use this to bury some bad news. Now, it's not as colossal as usual where they would go, okay, well, here's 800 layoffs. That was the big story. This one is just a little bit more kind of just corporations doing corporation things where, so from Kotaku's Ethan Gatch, 10 people are laid off within the Hearthstone team. Activision statement, organizational changes were made to the Hearthstone team. As a result, a small number of roles have become redundant. We want to thank these employees for their many contributions. How did you thank them, Activision Blizzard? These affected staff have claimed in their posts that no notice was given ahead of layoffs whatsoever, or no effort to find alternative placements within the company, which is usually like, that's the show of good faith, right? That's the thing you do that's, we actually want you around. Because there's a number of reasons to like take people off Hearthstone. That's fine. You go, well, Hearthstone's not making enough money. As much as you could talk about, well, how much is enough money? Is this more line god pandering? Is this, is this just line gods glowing a bit red today? Quick sacrifice blood on the altar? You look at Hearthstone, they've clearly had trouble monetizing it in the way they've wanted to. They've clearly been doubling down on monetization recently with like, not quite full whaling, but kind of getting closer to whaling, like possibilities in it with substantially bigger like priced cosmetics and things like that. More avenues for monetization. They're clearly having some sort of issues there, which kind of brings me to, okay, well, what's the good version of layoffs? The good version of layoffs is, quite ironically, as far as we understand, there could be more to the story that we don't know. But think about Forspoken, right? Forspoken came out after years of development, and that was a flop. That definitely didn't sell anywhere near as much as Square Enix had wanted to. And that was under Luminous Studios, which is a studio within. And we don't know if everyone stayed or people were moved, but a lot of the reporting from the shuttering of Luminous Studios was the entity, Luminous Studios, is being dissolved. However, developers are just being shuffled back into Square Enix as a whole, which goes to show they go, well, it wasn't the developer's fault, right? It was the organization's fault for not like targeting the game correctly, whatever, maybe production issues. For whatever reason, that game flopped. I know people have a lot of opinion on that, but it's clearly a case of they went, okay, well, we're not going to punish our devs. Why would we do that? We need those to make our games. But then the Blizzard version is, oh, sorry, you've been working for us for like as much as 18 years? Bye. Nice knowing you. Thank you very much. You can keep your Blizzard ring and your Blizzard sword and your Blizzard tankard and whatever little cheap gifts they get. You can keep those. That's fine. But another job? Nah. Assistants getting placed? Nah. Any warnings you can sort your life out? Nah, because you're just a fucking fly. You're just a little pest. You're a little pest on her balance sheet. It sucks. They could have found placements. Hearthstone people, like, I know, and at least one of them was a tools engineer. I know that for sure, because he openly posted on LinkedIn about it and got like some job offers. People have been saying a couple of things about this. One is that Hearthstone specific, right? It seems like Hearthstone might be just being going the way of Heroes of the Storm, because the esports stuff got canned a little while ago, or at least got turned down substantially. And that's obviously, that's cost cutting, right? So the next thing then is for the game to go into closer to a maintenance mode. And it hasn't seemed that's the case, and some of this might be fear-mongering on some ends, but it definitely feels a little bit like this is the people who were fired seem to be those who could be responsible for the future. It seems to be that way. Now, it could be genuinely, this is a good time to remove low performers and, get them to move on. And I think that's obviously understandable if you're paying someone and they just aren't doing their job. As long as you take the correct legal measures to like sort them through that and talk about it, then layoffs are fine. But because it's organizational changes, small number of roles, and it's Blizzard, everyone has to jump to the same conclusion. Hearthstone's entering maintenance mode. You're cost cutting. You're cost cutting because Line God isn't happy enough, and you don't even have the common decency to say, oh hey, you've worked for us for years and you worked in this game. Do you want to go get a place on the Warcraft team, as an example, because that's scaled up, right? Do you want to go work on Diablo for anything? No, it's just to hell with you. And that's not necessarily horrible, but it just doesn't feel right. And it feels like they've buried it under this news. They went, hello everyone, the original creator of Blizzard is back, everyone. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be so happy. Look forward to Classic Plus and Cataclysm Classic, and the next World of Warcraft is going to blow your socks off. And we're going to have TV shows and a movie, and the survival game is going to be cool, and everyone's going to love it, and it's not going to be out in 7 years, and it's not going to be way behind the times at all. No, we're Blizzard. We do things right now. Also, we don't treat our staff like humans, because they're not to them. That's what it feels like. That's every time this happens, it feels a little bit like leadership at Activision Blizzard are the scum of the earth. That's what you can't help but think every single time you see this happen. Every single time. And it's endemic throughout the industry in a lot of cases. Obviously, I talked about the example of Luminous Productions being seemingly a good enough version of that. I know a lot of the things people have been talking about with this isn't like, oh, well, just go get another job. It's fine, it's easy. The actual industry itself is in a really dark place for people trying to get hired, where there's a lot of people who are becoming senior level and they can't find senior level jobs anymore because so much of projects in the industry seem to be a handful of seniors leading a legion of outsourcing talent or juniors who are just kind of not treated like they should be there forever, not treated like future investments, just treated like disposable resources to get the next actual thing done. And obviously that's changing along the industry with things like Rockstar. Rockstar, based on like some reporting we've heard, they have improved their game. They've like completely changed their culture in a couple of years since they were like last called out for all the stuff that went wrong there. And it just seems like Blizzard are so far behind and just, yeah, we're going to treat our staff callously. We're going to, obviously historically underpay them. We've heard reports of that improving. Although again, you go, well, is that out of necessity because you aren't getting hires? Or is that because you think it's the right thing to do? And I think you look at the historical, like, moral fiber of Activision Blizzard, and it's not up to a corporation to be entirely moral. Like, obviously, you've got a job to do and you want to make stuff, fine. But you have to do it sustainably. Because if you don't do it sustainably, what's going to happen? We're not going to have an industry, at least not in the same way, in a couple of years. So that's Blizzard, right? That's Blizzard. They've done Blizzard things again. Their future on a creative level looks like it could be incredibly bright. It looks like so many problems that they had, so many problems that they, battled with for years and years now could be in some capacity solved by them understanding why they needed to bring Chris Metzen back. We've yet to see if it's going to amount to anything, but we will definitely find out at BlizzCon if this is a meaningful thing or not. At BlizzCon, we will hear, is the next stuff that Blizzard is doing, or the next Blizzard games, are they exciting? Are they culturally what people want to play? Or are they not? Because they haven't had a win like that that's carried through since Overwatch. Diablo 4 wasn't bad. Diablo 4 had a very successful launch, an astounding one. So they clearly have some capacity for it. They just need to actually figure out how. And also probably stop laying off their staff while being callous about it, because that's just not... You're not going to get the good talent. And I've said this in a couple of videos in a row now. You're not going to get the good talent to come work for you if you treat them badly. That's not how it works, ever. I mean, unless you treat them badly in the way chefs treat each other badly in the very, we have to be the best way. That's a different story. But the actual just, we didn't consider you human enough to tell you that you're not going to have a job soon. That's unforgivable in my view. At least I think so. What do you guys think? Do you think this is Warcraft save? Do you think this is Blizzard on the road to redemption yet again for the sixth time? Because the it's so over, we're so back graph, that is Blizzard effectively. They are the most monkey's paw ass company I've ever seen. It is full on just Metzen's back. Oh, what's going to break now? Anyway, that's the story for Blizzard. Thank you very much for paying attention. Hopefully this is good news as opposed to mid news, and I'll very, very much look forward to finding out, because I'm sure we're going to talk about BlizzCon when it happens, and that is just over a month away. So I will see you tomorrow and almost every day until then. Goodbye.